Hello, my friends. I'm your host, Mortimer James, and I would like to welcome you to the world of the creepy and the caffeinated, of conspiracies and coffee. Welcome to Tales from the Dark Roast. Let's begin today's show with some definitions from Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Shadow. Noun. A dark shape that appears on a surface when someone or something moves between the surface and a source of light. An area of darkness created when a source of light is blocked. Person, noun, a human being. Shadow person. Oddly enough, there is no entry for this combination of words. Should we combine these two words, though, it brings to mind disturbing and frightening imagery. A human being made of shadow, a shape of human created through the interplay of light and dark. An area of human-shaped darkness? Now, if you Google shadow person, Wikipedia defines it as a shadow person is the perception of a patch of shadow as a living humanoid figure and interpreted as the presence of a spirit or other entity by believers in the paranormal or supernatural. Sadly, there are those among us with the misfortune to see these beings, these shadowy figures that appear out of the corner of your eye and exist in the periphery. Whether they believe in the supernatural or not, they have had these interactions with shadow people, and in their stories, they never seem to be the heralds of good tidings, bringing happy, fun times with them. Instead, they slink in with fear and terror on their heels. My guest today is going to be another family member of mine who has agreed to share her interactions with these entities with us on the show. Please welcome my sister, Thursday James. Thursday, welcome on.
Hi, happy to be here.
Awesome. So Thursday is my adopted sister. And when we decided to adopt each other, I had no idea at the time the just astounding number of experiences across a wide spectrum that she was bringing into the family. The things that happen around and to her nearly on the daily are both creepy and a little concerning. So before we start, though, we've got to dive into our coffee, because you always talk about having these really delicious coffees from, I think, Bones Coffee.
Yes.
So dazzle me. What are you drinking today?
I'm actually drinking from one of my Bones mugs as well.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, today's coffee is the Bones caramel apple, but it's in my salty siren mug, so
There you go. Ooh, caramel
switching
apple.
it up a bit. Yes.
Is it sweet or does it just have like the smell and flavor?
It has a hint of the apple, definitely like a green apple type of flavor in it. Slightly fruity. Not too sweet though. Not too sweet.
That's good. I don't like my coffee to be sweet unless I add stuff to it. So
Yes.
today I'm actually drinking French pressed my coffee that I got from Winn-Dixie that I can't remember the name of, but it is it's like an almond cream from like some cafe or something. I don't know. It was cheap. It was on sale and it's absolutely delicious and there's no sweetness at all. But I love that like toasted, roasted almond smell. And that's what I'm getting from this coffee, especially with the French press.
Sounds delicious.
It is. And yours sounds good too. I really need to get over and visit and just like sample all your Bones coffee that you keep talking about.
We have way too many. Way too many.
I can never have too many coffees. So when we first started hanging out and talking, one of the things that that happened is we were on a video conference call with a bunch of other people, and I saw movement in the background of your monitor. I was like, whoa, something's moving behind you through the doorway. And your immediate response was, oh, it's probably just a shadow person.
Yeah.
And that led us to just dive into this rabbit hole of ridiculous things that happened to you. So when did you ever first like start experiencing shadow people or having the interactions with them?
The first I can remember is early childhood. I know that I would wake up in the middle of the night and just start talking to things that weren't there. It's not that I could see them at that age, but I could feel them. I knew there was something. And I guess it was probably my dad's side of the family that was always telling me I talk too much, and I'll talk to anything. I'll talk to a post, and I would just start talking to them, and eventually I stopped being scared of them.
Okay.
They're still terrifying when they pop out of nowhere. And I'm like, hey, now's not the time. But it's, yeah, it's definitely grown to be much different. But yeah, probably age 5 or 6.
That
It's the
early is when
earliest
you started
memory I
seeing
have
them.
of it. Yes.
Wow. Now, do you know if anyone else in your family has experiences with them that they've ever said like, "Hey, you said you saw this, but when I was growing up, I also saw this."
So, yes, my younger brother has actually seen things. There was a time when I was just out of college, and I moved back home for a few months or so. And my youngest brother would tell me stories about the guy that walked on the ceiling in my room. And
In his room or
no,
your
in my
room?
room, in my room. So the
No.
way our house was at that time, the stairs wrapped around the outside wall of the house. So like you walk into the front area and the stairs would go up that side wall, and then it would make this long balcony across. Um, and his room and my brother's room was on the opposite side of the house. My room was right there at the top of the stairs. You take a right, it's right there. There's bathroom in there and everything. Um, and there was a point in time where I did not like that room at all. But I was staying in it and I was grateful to stay there rent free. So I
You
stayed,
take
but
what you can
there
get.
were, yes, yes, there were many times where I didn't want to sleep in there. And at that point, I was what, 24, 23, 24. And I kept thinking, this is way too old to be scared of the dark in my room. This is ridiculous. Um, but one night we were hanging out upstairs where we had a TV and a pool table. And my brother had made himself a little fort underneath the pool table. And I was like, hey, can I come in your fort? And he goes, yeah, but he can't. And he pointed behind me towards my bedroom. And I was like, okay, he won't come in. And at that time, I had already started working with children because I'm a teacher. But yeah, it definitely piqued my curiosity. And so I talked to him more and more, and it came out that, yeah, he's seen a shadow person in my room. And I kept thinking that's strange because I've seen him too. And so we would talk about it, and the guy would hang out from his feet from the ceiling and he would just stand there. He never did anything that I could see, but
He was just
yeah,
there.
he was just there.
Now, I know, man, I can't remember the name you used, but I know that when I called out the fact that, hey, and it turned out, folks, that it wasn't a shadow person we caught on film or camera. It was just
No.
one of her dogs running by the door.
Yeah.
But you called it a name, and I can't remember what you said. It was like George or Henry, or I don't know if you just used an arbitrary name, but do you feel like you have specific ones that
Yeah,
you
I
see
do.
more often than other? Like, are there ones that are almost familiar to you, like you recognize them?
I My catch-all name for them is Richard, and I don't know why. Um,
I like
I
that
mean, I
because
can't imagine why.
the only thing I can think of, and this is completely off topic, is I think it's Tommy Boy
Yes.
Richard, and that's so now I'm gonna hear that every time. But your catch-all name is Richard. Go.
Yes, my catch-all name for them is Richard. Mostly because when they do pop up sometimes I can't exactly yell, quit being a that thing. Uh, but no, there have been several over the years that will pop in and pop out, and they feel more like visitations. There is a difference between a shadow person and something that will present itself as a shadow person. And so shadow people tend to be much darker, sometimes almost looking like a thick, oily substance rather than the actual shadow. So they're darker than the darkness in the room.
They stand out
Um,
from the darkness.
yes, and those are the super scary ones. And then there's others that seem to blend in with the shadows, and every once in a while I'll see like an arm form out of the shadows, and sometimes it waves, sometimes it doesn't. Typically those I'll sense a name or close to a name, and those are the ones that just feel like visitations. Like they don't know how to present themselves, so they just say hi, or they just feel comfortable, I guess, being around me or around the dogs. They like the dogs a lot. They
So
visit
you're
the dogs.
so the dogs will pick up on them and
Mhm.
notice them, or they're just observing the dogs.
Um, Sometimes they'll just observe the dogs, they'll watch them play.
Hmm.
Other times the dogs will interact. Of course, our youngest dog, Nigel, will bark like a crazy person, but I mean, he's a corgi. He barks at everything.
I was gonna say Nigel's a corgi,
Yeah,
so
yeah, he barks at everything. But there are times where he gets upset. He'll be looking at a corner and he'll get upset. And usually it's because the shadow person is leaving. He doesn't want, like, he wants to play.
gotcha.
Or sometimes like the shadow person can't play with him because
And
they
he gets
can't
upset about that.
physically interact. Yeah. So like I've seen Nigel toss a toy to the corner and then get down like in his crouch position, like he's going to chase after a toy that gets thrown, and the toy doesn't get thrown and he gets upset and he kind of barks at the corner, like telling him, pick up the toy. Yeah.
Gotcha. So real quick, let's
Mhm.
because people have an image or an idea of, I guess, what they think a shadow person should look like, and you've
Mhm.
you've described a couple different ones, the darker masses that almost
Mhm.
look oily and stand out from the shadows and the darkness, and then others that tend to blend in a little bit more.
Mhm.
Typically when you see one, like, describe for me, like, how does that happen? Like, are you seeing them out of your corner of your eye first, or are they like full on appearing in front of you, just so people know what to look for or what the experience is like?
I kind of chuckled there because I saw one this morning.
Of
I
course.
was in the shower and we
Creeper.
have we have small double doors that lead from our main bedroom to the main bathroom, and one of the doors doesn't quite catch all the way, and Nigel had knocked it open looking for me, and so they were thrown wide open. Nigel had left, and what I thought as I was washing my hair, um I
Nigel.
thought it was my husband. And so I just started talking. I was like, "Hey, babe, I'll be out in a minute, but would you mind bringing my coffee in?" And I turn around and I see from the edge of the door where the door stops, there is an outline that looks humanoid. It kind of looked like they were peering around the corner from behind the door. I didn't freak out because I don't freak out at them really anymore. The idea of them scares me more than when they actually show up, unless they pop up right in front of my face. Then I'm like, whoa, dude, no, back it up. But that one, I just kind of went, hey, now's not a good time.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm in a vulnerable position. If you're wanting to see the dogs, they're out in the living room. If not, you're just going to have to wait, man. Just wait. I can talk to you later. And that was it. I saw it go behind the door the rest of the way, and a hand kind of came up and almost waved and disappeared, and that was it. And it was just, I don't know, like the gray of like roofing tile or shingles
Okay.
that just kind of blends in. It's almost a brownish gray when it's them, when it's the nice ones. It's like a brownish gray that kind of looks like a thick smoke.
Okay. With
Yeah.
just maybe a tinge of brown to it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Which is weird, because I've read other places and I've never put it to the test, but that if you're actually trying to hide in darkness, like in pitch black, it's actually better to wear like dark browns and like dark
Mhm.
reds and burgundies, because it doesn't break up the shadow as much and make you stand out. Whereas if you wear
Yes.
if you wear all black clothing and you stand in shadows, you actually stand out from the shadows, because
Yes.
shadows are not completely black.
Yes, because you'll end up looking like an outline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
whereas the brown
That's,
and red
yeah.
colors break up that outline.
Mhm.
That's interesting. That's something I've never heard of with shadow people being described. So maybe they've got something that kind of is built in that helps them blend a little bit better. I don't know. So back to specifically like your personal experiences,
Mhm.
is there one or maybe a handful of ones that stand out that I know you've said there have been ones that have been scary? Is there like one specific one that like if you were going to tell someone about a scary interaction or one that really just frightened you?
There's been a few times where I've never experienced it firsthand. That is the sleep paralysis ones.
Mm-hmm.
Those I don't suffer from sleep paralysis. I can't imagine. Like it does terrify me to think about it. I
No.
do know when I wake up and I see one at the foot of my bed, I get angry. Like I don't get I mean, obviously a lot of anger stems from fear, so I'm probably a bit scared, yes. Um, but I can almost immediately recognize which type it is. And if it is one of the darker, oily, kind of liquidy, dripping ones, is the way it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can always tell because when I wake up and I see them, I get pissed off and I sit straight up in bed and I usually yell at it to get the F out of my house. And it tends to like crawl up the wall and it seems to be like dripping from the ceiling. And then eventually it'll go away. I just have to be forceful with them. But there have been times where it still feels like I'm asleep and it's in that weird in and out of sleep phase where you like open your eyes, but you're still kind of
Yeah.
dreaming.
The
And
residuals of the dream are
yeah,
still in your system, or
yes,
you're lingering. Yeah.
yes. And it's like for me, it's like there's dripping from the ceiling coming down. Um, and I know what it is, and I flat out tell them, you've got to go. Like you cannot stay here. This is my house. You don't get to stay. And that's usually when I go update my salt circles and work on some cleansing.
Because you
Little
are
bit.
just a little bit of a hedge witch, right? That's kind of how you've described it. So
Yeah.
do you find that like burning like the different, what is it sage or?
There are different rituals and different things that can be used. I have used sage in the past. I prefer to use rosemary,
Okay.
bundles of dried rosemary, bundles of dried cedar, lavender, rose petals. Those things tend to work a little more for me than anything else. Palo Santo is very strong, and I will only use it if I absolutely have to. I don't like necessarily borrowing from different cultures like that. I don't care for that.
So I've not heard of that one. What did you, Paulus
Palo
Santos?
Santo.
Okay. What
Palo
is?
Santo. It's a very resinous wood that has a slightly minty smell when it gets burned, and it's supposedly a bit stronger than burning, say, bundles of herbs and such. I have a friend who lives in California, and she is indigenous, and she taught me how to use it. I try not to use it often, but sometimes you kind of have to.
So it's like
Um,
your weapon of last resort if you're trying to kind of
yes,
cleanse the area or flush something away.
yes, and I will always, always, always ask permission from the ancestors before doing any of that because I don't want to get rid of all of the entities that like to visit, but oh, those oily guys, they just are not welcome. They need
Make
to go bye-bye.
make the skin crawl and the hair rise
Little bit,
a little
little
bit.
bit.
So we started talking about this before recording, and something that was brought up that I had actually listened to on a couple of other podcasts that I didn't know about and I had to do more research on was that apparently a lot of meth addicts, which if you guys don't know, I live in Florida and Tampa area, and in the area I live, it is ridiculous how much meth there is. Um, but apparently meth addicts will talk about seeing shadow people. to the point where it's super common when they're on one of their trips or smoking the meth that they will talk about these shadow people. And I'm curious if that's like part of the manic state that meth brings on and it's opening something up, or maybe it's just part of their trip. But it's creepy to me that so many people on meth have talked about it. And I don't know. I'm curious if meth might open something up because it's such a weird combination of drugs.
I don't have any experience with meth. I actually don't have any experience with any drugs, to be honest, other than like the wine I drink when I play D&D. But
yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. So
I know that there are cultures that use things like that to kind of open the consciousness. For me, it feels a lot like just a suspension of disbelief. It allows you to accept things you wouldn't normally, maybe.
So kind of like kids are much easier to believe stuff. Like they have imaginary friends, they believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny, and all these things. And then as they get older, that belief tends to fade. So maybe the drugs, whether they're medicinal and used for ritualistic purposes, are opening people up, or like meth and other stuff like that, it's just like you said, it's spending that disbelief so that they almost go back to when they're kids and it's easier to believe in these things.
Yeah, they kind of revert back to that childlike state and they believe a little more and accept a little more. I mean, I'm not saying all kids act like meth addicts, but it's a fair description.
Yeah, and maybe all meth addicts act like kids.
Yeah, there we go.
I've had the misfortune of running into some, and it's creepy and scary in and of itself because they're human, but they're acting like crazy.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like teaching middle school.
Yeah. Oh man. So we've talked about what they look like and some bad experiences, or at least the feeling you get. You had mentioned that some of them feel like they're making their presence known, and they're maybe not. They're using the shadow person, what is it? Their visual representation when they're coming over, but they may not necessarily be shadow person.
Yeah. So there are some that will present themselves as a shadow person. Usually it's meant to intimidate at first, but they're not actually shadow people. Usually it is someone who is deceased. They were alive at one point in time. And it kind of feels like they just don't know how to say hello, to get my attention. So they'll show up as that smoke type of figure. Generally, those entities do not bother me much. Those are more of the ones I'll see out of the corner of my eye. I'll see a leg go by, or like right now, this is the computer we have played D&D on. And as you said before, there was one time you saw in the doorway, you thought it was something, and you saw movement. There's been many times where we've been playing and I see movement and I'm the only one home. There was one time I think we were playing and my husband had taken the dogs with him to visit his parents in a neighboring city. And my brother who lives with us was at work. And so I was definitely the only one home. There was no reason for any movement to be happening. I didn't know if y'all could see it, and I did not want to scare any of y'all. I knew who it was.
Oh, see, I wish you had told me, because I'm pretty good, but when we're playing, we've got what?
Yeah.
6 people up there now, 5 people.
Yeah, there's several people looking back at you. So
yeah, so I don't have as much room to check out and see. And of course, another dog wants to be let in, so let's do this real quick. I know we message a lot during those games sometimes.
yes.
So next time, and if it's lingering, it's there, let me know, because I want I don't want to bring those kinds of experiences into my life, because we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
I've never had a ghost experience, one, or at least I've never had an experience that I can definitely say was a spirit or an entity of some sort. I don't know what I believe about ghosts, because I've brought people on the show that have had these experiences, and I believe their stories, but I don't know what I believe personally. But the one that kind of scares me and creeps me out the most are shadow people. And there's always, I've read a lot of different places and heard a lot of different things, that once you start talking about them and you introduce yourself into their world, they then introduce them into your world. So I don't know that I want to be told, but I do. I want to know. I want to see, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to. So if there's something, call it out. Let me know. Like, send me a message directly. You don't have to scare the others.
I will do that. I do know that it's not necessarily a matter of just talking about them.
Okay.
Because they can hear your inner thoughts. There's times where I'm laying in bed and trying to fall asleep, and there'll be faces flashing up in my mind's eye, and every once in a while one comes in and screams at me, and I'm like, okay, that's Harold, by the way.
Harold. Okay.
That's Harold. I'm like, all right, Harold, that's enough. I gotta sleep, man. Yesterday was horrible and today wasn't so great, so I need some sleep. And like, he'll back off every once in a while. He doesn't always, but
so it takes more than just speaking about them.
yeah, it takes more than just talking about them. You have to actually invite that type of energy in. I'm very careful about which energies and entities I allow to stay. So you definitely have to. It's like with any relationship, you have to set boundaries and keep them.
Little give and takes, and
Yeah.
that makes sense. What do you think there's a definitive definition or definitive source for what these things are? Or do you think it's multiple things, which I think we've kind of touched on already, but like, if you had to say specifically what they were.
So, like I said, with some of the ones that visit, those are generally deceased. They were deceased. They present themselves as shadow people. They're not actually shadow people. There are some entities that are true shadow people that are former humans. They were just really horrible, terrible, no good, very bad humans. And fortunately, I have not come across any like that. I will definitely be doing some cleansing later just to make sure that was not an invitation. Please don't visit.
Yeah.
I don't want tourism of that kind.
Yeah. No vacancy.
No. The ones that scare me the most, like I said, the dripping oily ones, those to me feel more like elementals. They are a part of the earth or a part of time itself.
So not human at all.
No. And you can keep them at bay sometimes. You can like hold them at arm's length and do everything you can to protect. But if they honestly want to harm you, there's not a whole lot you can do to stop them unless you get more than one person involved and a whole bunch of ritual and a whole bunch of protection, often of the spiritual kind.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely don't want to have any of those experiences.
No.
Because growing up, like I said, I never had any experiences, but you can always tell, and I might be giving away a lot of information here, but when I'm actually scared, I'll whistle to myself. I'll sing songs, but always almost like in a happy, upbeat way that doesn't, like, I'm trying to like put off the fear. And there have been times when I will walk, like specifically Lilu, sorry, my dog, she's whining because she wants to now go back outside after I've let her in.
Well, of course.
There is an area in the office building I work at, and it I think it was a set of old apartments in Ybor, which is in downtown Tampa. It's a very historical area. It's been there for a very long time. But there's a very specific area in the building. It creeps me out a little bit, and it's always dark because I work a night shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I have to walk through that area if I want to go to the water fountain to refill my bottle. And I don't know what it is about that area. It's always dark. The lights are always off. Um, and maybe it's the absence of real people, because I know those offices are filled during the day. But whenever I walk into that area, I instantly have to start whistling. And I don't know if if it's just because I'm freaking myself out because I know so much different stuff and I've heard so many different stories, or maybe there's something lingering there. But I always get the sense that if there was anything in that building in that specific area at that time, it would be a shadow person. And I don't know why I make that connection, because I've never seen anything. But there's that feeling like when I walk into that area, like legit, I could be wide awake, wired on coffee, had just talked to the two other guys I work with, but I go upstairs and I go in that area and I instantly like, nope, gotta walk fast, whistle to myself.
Yeah, some of that in certain places is just self-preservation. That's your primitive stuff coming out
Yeah.
because there's darkness and you don't know what could happen.
Right.
But
But
if
I'm not
you're
afraid of the dark though.
no,
That's what's crazy with me. Like,
and see, it could be you have that feeling of being watched.
you know, or like I said, the sense that like I know those offices are jammed packed with people during the day. And then when I'm
Yeah.
walking by at night, there's nothing. So is it the absence, or is there something
Oh
there that
no,
I'm
I mean,
feeling?
people leave behind energy everywhere they go. And
Yeah.
so it's possible that whoever occupies that space during the day, maybe they're going through some shit. Like maybe it's just they're giving off some energy that's lingering and it's affecting you when you walk past it.
That would, with where I work and what I do and what those people do in those offices, it would not surprise me. It would not
Yeah.
surprise me at all if that's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
And also the response or reaction of whistling or singing,
mhm.
both of those are extremely powerful magic. It's music. Music is an extremely powerful magic. So more than likely you feel more protected when you are making a musical noise.
My music, my whistles are magical.
There you go.
So I get it from my father. This is completely off topic, but he is a ridiculous person when it comes to whistling and making noises. So he was Navy for 30 some odd years, I want to say. And when he would go out on boats on the ships, they'd be gone for 6 months. He can whistle and make a noise that sounds exactly like a cricket. And they would be in the middle of the Pacific frickin' Ocean, middle of nowhere, no landmass, been at sea for months, and he would do that, and it would drive people crazy. And then growing up, we had a rule: we could go anywhere in our neighborhood, anywhere at all, at any time. But when we heard him whistle, it was time to come home. And I could be all the way across the neighborhood, almost a mile away, and I could hear this piercing, screeching whistle. And I've picked up that. My daughter laughs at me because I make noises and do stuff like that when I whistle. So my whistles are magic. I like
There you
that. I
go.
like the thought of that.
Yeah.
That might actually, I don't know, that kind of makes me enjoy the whistling a little bit more, and especially when
Yeah.
I'm scared now.
Just
So
don't do it in the forest in the Appalachian Mountains. Please don't.
I've heard
Please
that.
don't.
And also in South America and other places,
Yes.
like whistling
Mhm.
in the woods is like an invitation to some things, like,
Yes.
hey, come and play. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I've heard that one as well. And I tend not to whistle. Though I have, just to mess with my daughter, we went camping not too long ago. And as we were leaving to the trail from camping, I was like, "Ooh, it's early in the morning, there's mist. Let's make Bigfoot calls." And like I started, and, of course we didn't hear anything back, but she had a lot of fun with that.
Oh, that
So,
actually happened to my brother out at my mom's house because she lives out in the country.
mhm.
And late at night, he made a noise. He was just joking around. We would give him a lot of Sasquatch gifts just to pick on him because he totally believes in Sasquatch. And something made a noise back. And at that point, he hopped up and went, okay, time to go to bed. And just like walked straight inside. Did not make another noise. That's what you get.
There's a true believer for you right there. Like, nope, Deuce is gone. Nighttime. That's hilarious. Well, as we wrap it up, are there any thoughts or final like warnings or suggestions you would give people who are maybe experiencing this or maybe don't realize they're experiencing it and maybe this has opened them up? What would you say to those people?
I know exactly how hard it is to remain calm in so many different situations. But when it comes to dealing with entities and beings of that kind, whether they are true shadow people or just visitors, taking a giant deep breath and not reacting negatively could mean the difference between you getting more visitors or not. Because they don't always ask, they don't always wait for an invitation. And if you majorly react negatively, if it's one of the bad guys, they more than likely feed off that fear. So just try to remain as calm as possible and keep those boundaries up. You can say no and you can tell them to leave. You have that power.
Which is funny because I've researching this, a lot of people say don't interact with them and don't respond. But you and then another friend of mine who also was having experiences with entities, immediately the first thing you said was set boundaries, tell them no, push them out, don't let them.
I can say that I have heard my name called from upstairs when I've been downstairs in my own home, knowing I'm the only human in the house. I do not respond at all. That is some of the times where I will go grab my rosemary and I will immediately start cleansing, and it is not pleasant to hear that. For things like that, like if you hear singing in the house and you're the only one home, don't start singing along, don't invite it in. You can say no, you can tell it to go. Just don't refer to it personally.
So don't reference the song, but you could say, you're not welcome, go.
Oh, I wouldn't even say you are not welcome. I simply say no beings other than myself are welcome in this home. Leave now.
All right.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to let people know?
No, I don't really have anything else going on in my life. Just me and the ghosties and teaching children. That's about it. That's all I have time for. And the dogs.
And the dogs.
And the dogs.
Well, you guys, we are going to have my sister Thursday back on because, like I said, the more we talk about the things that she's experienced, the more I realize that she needs to talk about this. And I know she's giving me a face right now, but I'm not saying need like I want to force it out of her, but these experiences, they might help someone or even just give her a chance to talk. And
that's why I do it.
So, well, again, sis, I want to say thank you again for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
And we'll see about getting you back on, talk about something else, maybe something a little bit happier next time.
Yeah.
So, but go finish your coffee and okay. I'll get with you later. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, my friends. Well, that is going to be a wrap for today's episode with my sister, Thursday. And just want to remind you guys, check us out on all of our platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on Instagram, all under Tales from the Dark Roast name. Do us a huge favor, like our episodes, leave a comment. That really helps us to grow the channel. And it's a chance for you to offer some advice, maybe tell us about your experience with shadow people or anything else for that matter. We'd love to do it, and I'll respond to every comment that we get. Also, if you can, leave us a review. If you're not listening to us on YouTube, if you got us on Spotify or Google, leave us a review and subscribe, guys. That really helps us out. Also, stay tuned. Like I said before, we're going to have hopefully a big announcement towards the end of this month. We've got some ambitious ideas for the end of the year. And like I said, those bonus episodes are still coming. I got one more to film, and we'll be posting that up. So that again is going to be covering evidence from our first two guests. So once again, thank you for listening. And if you have any dark stories you're willing to tell, let me try that again. If you have blah, 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 done. I need more coffee, guys. I'm sorry. If you've got a dark story and you want to tell it, I've got a pot of dark coffee and I'm willing to share it with you guys. I'm Mortimer James, and this has been Tales from the Dark Roast.